I've got something just a little bit different for you this time. Um, about 3 years ago, we had a visit from a lecturer from Liverpool Uni School of Architecture who brought a group of first-year students along as part of their coursework, and they were producing plans for a visitor centre for us. He was also very interested in the idea of laser scanning the tunnels, underground spaces, and we were very happy to cooperate. And he spent quite some time going through every chamber in the Paddington cellars, and he produced laser scans of everything that he saw. Unfortunately, there wasn't any real funding provided this time, and he ran out of time and money to complete the project. All he managed to produce for us, which we saw soon after he did it, were 3 screenshots of the scans, unfinished business, and it isn't finished yet. But he came back last year with another group. This time he was leading a group of third-year architectural students. He had more scope and more funding for what he was doing, and he was still interested in doing laser scans. This time he came back on a couple of occasions and he did complete laser scans of the Williamson's Tunnels house site on Mason Street. And this time he's managed to complete it in not too long a period, and it's to be made available either to be on our website or to be accessed from our website. You can't download this at the moment. It's just something that you can view on the internet on this system called Sketchfab. Very clever piece of software. The scans consist of normal laser scanning indoors in all the underground chambers, combined with a lot of photographs internally and photographs looking from above on the site. And the clever software combines it all, and it makes for quite an interesting view. So this is the first shot from a laser scan of the Williamson's house site. You're looking at the house frontage and the road in front here. Below you can see the banqueting hall there. It goes down to 30 feet below ground. Above it is the boiler room as we know it, and alongside is the wine bins area, part of the Williamson House basement. Now, if I can do this properly without it all going horribly wrong, I should be able to manipulate this round and tip it up and down and do all sorts of clever things with it. But it doesn't always work the way you want it to. So I'm just going to have a go. Now, here we are looking sideways on. Full length of the banqueting hall there. There's the boiler room on top. Behind that is a staircase that goes down into the basement from the ground floor of the house. Along here we have the basement kitchen with those 4 cooking ranges in. And behind that, and behind the bay window, there's the sunken backyard behind Williamson's house. Looking towards the rear, from the sunken backyard, you go down a set of steps into the sandstone chamber as we know it. Lovely sandstone arched roof, and from there climb underneath the staircase around the corner, crouch down, and then you can climb down this set of steps, down the gash, and find yourself in the banqueting hall. In fact, you find yourself 6 feet below the main floor of the banqueting hall. From that point you have to climb a ship's ladder kind of thing up to the main floor, and then you can walk along the full length of the banqueting hall, looking downwards from this trench that you end up in when you get to the bottom of the gash. This goes steeply downhill through the side wall of the banqueting hall, and through a little rock cut opening where you have to crouch and climb through, and you open out into another chamber, the one we call the magnet chamber, which is sitting here alongside the banqueting hall, but set much lower down in the ground. I hope that makes some sort of sense to the people who have actually been there and had the tour. It may not make nearly so much sense to people who haven't, but bear with me. It's the best we can do. So we're just going to hopefully gradually maneuver this round 360 degrees. Here you're looking onto the end wall of that sandstone chamber. When you climb down the staircase from above into there, you look towards the far end of the chamber and you can see a smaller brick arch set into the side of the main stone arch. This we know used to go somewhere, but unfortunately whatever was there has been destroyed, and there's nothing to be seen anymore. Here we have the gash again, leading down into the banqueting hall. See if I can maneuver it a bit further without going wrong. As I say, this is the steep slope down a trench running across the banqueting hall through the opening, and there you go into the magnet chamber next door under the land adjacent. The magnet chamber is a very interesting one. 15 feet wide, just like the widest part of the banqueting hall. But unfortunately, because of circumstances, there isn't very much free space in there. And the free space that there is filled with so much scaffolding and wooden shuttering holding back spoil that it was far too cluttered. And Nick Webb, when he was doing the scanning, he decided that the scans just wouldn't work in that space. There were too many obstructions that would have ruined it. So unfortunately, he had to leave that one out. Come on, turn around, you. Please. Right, end on, looking from the rear of the site towards Mason Street and the frontage of Williamson's house and ground level. Keep going. So far, so good. Sandstone chamber again there. Staircase coming down from the sunken yard runs down there. And here we go. Hopefully. There's the gash from the other side, running down through the solid sandstone bedrock where it's been hacked out. Only about 18 inches wide at the top. And then it opens out a bit wider as you go down the slope and tip out into the banqueting hall, that point there. And this again is the full length of the banqueting hall, looking from the opposite side. Excuse me. Seem to be tipping it over now. Wasn't really what was intentional. As I say, there were hundreds, I think, of photographs taken on the surface from all angles, all over this site, looking at it from every direction, and even a couple of the diggers standing there being photographed while that was happening. But these photographs have been incorporated into the laser scans to make it very much a composite arrangement. Tip it down a bit more if I can. Now you're looking almost down on top of it. Tall frontage of the house there, held up with this steelwork. And there's the full length of the basement kitchen, with the stairs going down there into the underground spaces, and the bay window there at the rear of the kitchen, and then the sunken yard behind it. So I'll try to carry on turning this round. So far, so good. Tip it back up again a bit. There you go. Very clever the way this works. If you can manipulate it without going wrong. Sometimes it goes horribly wrong, and you end up with a completely different shot from the one you're trying to look at. So as you can see, the banqueting hall is quite deep, and it goes down to 30 feet below road level here. This is the road in front of the house front and the pavement there. Boiler room sitting on top of the banqueting hall directly, and then the wine bins area there. Just one more maneuver, and we're looking straight at the frontage of the house and what lies below. Now I think I'll go through a set of individual shots. These seem to be some kind of a composite of photographs and laser scans, and the quality of them as photographs is not at all good. He admitted when he did it that he was a bit disappointed with the quality of the photographs, but the thing that makes them different is that they are able to be manipulated like a laser scan, even though they're combined with a photograph. So we'll start here, number one, the banqueting hall. So there we are inside the banqueting hall. This is looking from the end where we're directly under the frontage of the house and up against the road, looking the full length of the banqueting hall towards the gash at the far end with its wooden steps leading up to the sandstone chamber. As you can see, the banqueting hall is in two different widths. It's only about 10 feet wide at this end, but at the far end, it's about 15 feet wide, which means you've got these two completely separate spans of brick arches, which look rather nice when you see them together. Where should we go now? Banqueting hall again, looking in the opposite direction. We're somewhere alongside the gash at that end, looking towards the road and towards the frontage of Williamson's house, which is directly above there. Just up there is a hole in the roof, which is a hole in the floor of the boiler room, which sits directly above this area at the far end. And down through that hole and one other was poured tons and tons of rubble, which filled this chamber right up to its roof at that end. We cleared it all out over 2017 and 18, I think. And what next? The trench that runs across the floor of the banqueting hall, close to the gash end. And it runs steeply downhill there through an opening, through the cutout through the rock, which is only about 4 feet wide, 3 foot high. And we've managed to break a way through there through a great brick buttress that was blocking the way. And that's how we get into the magnet chamber, which lies beyond. Not a particularly easy place to get through, but well worthwhile seeing it. Wonder what's next. Right, this is a shot looking from inside the gash down towards the banqueting hall, looking in fact right along the full length of the banqueting hall to the far wall there. And if we go back up the steps, up the gash, we end up back here in the sandstone chamber, which is our way down. We now have a nice set of steel stairs leading down into the sandstone chamber from the sunken yard, which lies behind. Up these stairs now, and we're now in the sunken backyard, and we're looking at the bay window at the rear of Williamson's house. We're looking actually through the bay window into the full length of the kitchen with the staircase at the far end. The urinals here on the right-hand side, nothing to do with Williamson, put in by the military much later. And now I think we go into the kitchen. Yes, there we are. This is the basement kitchen under Williamson's house. To say, it should be quite possible to manipulate this in all directions, but I sometimes find that if I don't do it just right, it'll flip to another shot altogether. So I'm not going to go very far. You can experiment for yourselves when it's made available on the website. Now we've gone into the boiler room, which sits directly on top of the banqueting hall at the road end. This end of the boiler room is sitting directly under the frontage of Williamson's house and almost under the pavement. And where do we go next? Oh, into the wine bins right next door. Looking along the length of the wine bins main room, frontage of Williamson's house is above this lovely elliptical arch, and the wine bins are these 3 bays here, filled with wooden racks and full of wine bottles, left over from a film set. And what happens next? That's the long passageway that runs down alongside the main room of the wine bins. This, in the direction of the camera, leads towards the rear room of the wine bins. But again, that one which we excavated out has so many steel props holding up the roof because there's only a few inches of very poor concrete above. And Nick decided that it was just too cluttered a space for the laser scan to work properly, so he chose not to do it. These here are pit props that we put in, and the rear room is full of them, so it would have looked a real mess. It's a shame, really, because it's an interesting room, but he decided he couldn't show that, really. Right, back to the Williamsons' house facade looking at the front. We've already seen that shot. And a few external fixed shots here. Rather interesting looking up underneath it, I think. Move that down a bit. A wonderful thing. Should be able to tip it up and look right underneath it as well, but I'm not sure that I want to attempt it. Oh, there you go. Look, it's like something floating in space, an entity of its own. But really, it's showing up the hollows, basically. It's showing up the empty spaces. So it's an odd thing. Next one, looking on towards the front of the banqueting hall and the boiler room, directly below the road and the pavement there. And then where do we go? Looking from the opposite direction, looking towards the road and the frontage of the house up here, looking at the back of the banqueting hall and the sandstone chamber up there. Sideways on, very nicely showing the gash running down from the sandstone chamber there, right down through this rock cut crevice and down into the banqueting hall in this deep trench that runs across its floor. And there's an external view looking down into what he's labelled as excavated remains of the house. But in actual fact, it's the excavated basement kitchen here and the sunken backyard behind it. This, by the way, was all completely lost. Would have been lost forever if we hadn't have rediscovered it. It had been filled full of rubble from the demolition of the house back in 1936, concreted over, and it just became the floor of Willie's garage, never to be seen again until we had one or two little clues and decided to smash a bit of concrete and found the staircase, and the rest is history. We dug it all out. Not sure if there's any more or not. We're back to the banqueting hall. So at that point, I'll go back to the starting shot, house facade, and I think we'll leave that. But just before I finish, if I can manage to import them, I have these 3 screenshots of the scans that were done at Paddington, and I'm going to import them one at a time. It's the only way I can do it. Right, that is the whole set of Paddington cellars, from ground level up here down to 60 feet below ground at the bottom of the level 4 chambers. This one's labeled up as an ISO view, whatever that means, I'm not sure. But I don't know whether you can make sense of it or not, but what we're looking at is the staircase going down from ground level there down to the gantry, where we have our displays and talk about the Williamson story to our visitors. Down a second set of steps, and you can turn the corner there and go into the mile-long tunnel, as we call it. And then coming back again and down a couple more steps, you go into the main area of the level 2 cellars here. And then you can go through between 2 buttresses into the one we call the tunnel to nowhere, because it's got the arch to nowhere there built into its side. Back out again and across there, and then you're into the long chamber. The long chamber sits directly on top of the level 4 deep chamber. The tunnel to nowhere sits on top of the level 3 chamber, known as the boot chamber and the Lomax chamber. I'm afraid this won't make very much sense to people who have never been there, but it's quite an interesting representation of something that's deep underground, showing it as it would look if it was isolated in space. Second shot is a sort of sideways, looking onto the whole structure sideways, 60 feet below ground there, ground level up here. And this level is the gantry. You go down the staircase from ground level there to the gantry, down the second set of stairs, round into the mile-long tunnel, back again and down a couple more steps and into level 2. This one is tunnel to nowhere. This one is the long chamber alongside. 2 chambers side by side, sitting directly on top of 2 more, much deeper chambers. This one is the level 3 chamber. We go out of level 2, down a staircase, stone steps, turn a corner to the right, and then you're about 7 feet above the floor of the level 3 chamber, and you would then go down a steel staircase to its floor, and you can walk end to end in the level 3 chambers. You can look through this arch, which is joining level 3 and level 4 chambers together. You can look over the fence and down into the bottom of level 4 there, very steep drop. And then after looking at level 3, you go down our tower staircase, which is here, 3 flights of steps in it, and you go right down to the bottom of level 4, 60 feet below ground, where there's a walkway and you can walk right through into the middle of this chamber. Rather surprising, really, for a laser scan. It is purely a laser scan, but it shows up very clearly our tape on the wall of level 4, pinned right up there at the top before we started excavating. And red, white tape is 12.5 meters long, ends there, 2.5 meters above the floor. And you can even see signs that we pinned on the wall years ago. Bit of a joke, actually. One of them says no swimming or something like that. They're not there anymore. And the final shot of the 3 screenshots, this is a bird's eye view, if you like, orientated the other way around. From ground level here, we come down the steel staircase down to the gantry level there. Second set of steps goes down there, turn the corner into the mile-long tunnel, and in the top of the mile-long tunnel you can clearly see that drop hole, coal chute, if you like, now has a steel cover over the top of it. Back out of the mile-long. Oh, before we go out of the mile-long, this chamber runs about 10 meters up the pavement. It doesn't appear to serve any purpose. It's right under the pavement, and it was mostly full of rubble when this scanning was done. It's now empty, and it goes right up there, part way under the pavement and part way under the electricity substation, which lies above here. So that's now completely emptied. So down a couple more steps and into level 2. This is the main area of level 2, and you can go through between the 2 buttresses into the tunnel to nowhere. And there's the arch to nowhere in its side. Back out again, cross there, between 2 more buttresses, and you're into the long chamber. It's only called the long chamber because it's a few feet longer than the one next door. And it has this sort of ante-room at the end of it. You have to climb over a wall, a broken wall, and in the floor of this there's a drop hole, and all the material that filled the level 4 chamber below was all poured down there. So that's just about it, I think. We will be getting the complete scan, interactive scan of the Paddington cellars in time. I believe Nick Webb is still working on it and hoping to have it finished, and that will go alongside the one of the house site. But at the moment, these 3 screenshots of it are all we've got to go. But it's still interesting. I can't wait to see the finished article for this as well. So that's just about it. Hope you found that interesting. So that's the end of that little show. Thank you.